So for your freshwater tank, it is located on the driver's side of the RV right here. Freshwater is your storage water, so it's always in the RV with you, and it's 50 gallons. There is a lever inside that you can press to check and see how full or how low you're getting on the fresh water. But to fill the fresh water from the outside, I always suggest when you're done at the campsite or you have the ability to be hooked up to water before you leave, you just want to top off your storage water. So how you would do that is, here's your hose. Again, colored attachment always goes to the campsite or wherever you're getting your water from, and then the regular garden hose part always goes in the RV. So you would just put this in here and fill it. You'll know it's full from the outside because the water starts coming out. When you're using fresh water, your storage water, you always want to have your water pump on. That gives you pressure to get water to all of your faucets. So with the water pump on, I can use my water normally from the storage water, the fresh water. If I cut the water pump off, it cuts my water supply off. You only want to have the water pump on when you're using your storage water. If you're hooked up to city water, like a direct connection to the campsite water, you do not want to have the water pump on because that's too much pressure. To check the levels on your freshwater tank, you're going to click on this fresh button right here and hold down, and it shows you how full or how empty you are on the freshwater tank, your storage water. That button's right here. Your city water is located on the driver's back side, and it's labeled as city water connection. When you're using city water, again, it's just the regular garden hose part goes in and screws into the RV here, and then the colored attachment goes to your outside source. So if you're hooking up to a campsite or wherever you have the water availability, the colored attachment will go there and you'll screw the hose in here. And just always keep in mind the water pump inside must be off when you're hooked up to the city water connection. Also on the driver's side of the RV, you have a cable hookup in case the campsite has the availability for cable, and that is located here. And then you have your black cable that you can plug in and hook up to the campsite cable if they provide that amenity. Also on the driver's side of the RV, you have your waste tanks. So right here under your gas tank, you have your waste tanks in this storage door. So right now they're open just to show that we dumped it. When you're at the campsite or ready to dump, it's going to be closed with the cap on like this. So when it's time to dump, you're going to want to take off the cap. This part of the waste hose hooks in here, and you just want to lock it in. You're going to pull your black lever first, and then you're going to want to pull your gray. This will go to the pipe in the ground. If you're at a campsite, there's usually a white pipe in the ground. You'll take the top off and plug this in, or it goes to wherever the dump site is that you'll be dumping. When you are done dumping, you'll hear it. You're going to want to close your gray first and then close your black last. So when you're opening, it's black first, which is your toilet water. The heavy stuff goes first, and then you open your gray, which is your sink and shower water last. When you're closing, you want to close the gray first and then the black. If you mess up that sequence, it's not a big deal. You just might have to rinse the hose afterwards. Make sure they're nice and tightly closed. Then you can remove the cap and pop this cap back on. On your control panel, right here, black is your toilet waste. So everything you flush down the toilet is stored. Right now it's showing empty. When it shows 2/3, it's definitely time to dump. Gray is your sink and shower drain. And again, when that drains, it goes into a storage compartment. That's your gray tank. When that's at 2/3, it's time to dump. Also on the driver's side is your power cord. For this, you actually have to use the key to open. So you unlock that. One end of the power cord is attached to the RV itself, and then you can just pull out the cord and plug it in. And again, it's a 30 amp plug on this RV. Coming around to the passenger side, you're gonna see your big storage bay here. Well, you'll find your water hose, your black cable hookup, your waste hose, and some leveling blocks. This RV does not have automatic levelers, so if you're uneven at all or the campsite grounds are not even, you're going to want to use the leveling blocks. You just build them like Legos and drive onto them to level out the RV. You don't want to remain too unlevel for very long because that leads to problems with the Freon in the fridge, so your fridge won't work correctly. Also on the passenger side of the RV, you'll see some 110 outlet plugs here in case you want to plug in something outside. You also have your outdoor TV, which is right here. Right below your outdoor TV is where your propane tank is located. So right here, right by the entrance, is your propane tank. You can check and see how full or empty you're getting on your propane inside. But if you need to get the propane filled, U-Haul, some campsites, really just a quick Google search of propane fills near me. Obviously, you're going to want to call the place before you go there and make sure that they do fill propane tanks on an RV. And you would just have to pay whatever their cost is per gallon, and they'll do all the work for you. They will need to be directed to where the propane tank is, so you would just say on the passenger side, right in this storage compartment. To check your propane level, on the control panel, it's LPG, so you just press and hold that down, it shows you as full. So you have two ways to power the RV. You have your 30 amp plug on the outside, and then you also have your generator. And it's either one or the other for power, not both. So if you're on the go and you're traveling and you don't have the ability to plug in, and someone wants to turn the AC on in the back of the RV, so this AC unit, they want to watch TV, or if they want to use the 110 outlets in the RV, or if they want to use the microwave, they have to turn the generator on, unless you're plugged in. If you're plugged in, everything will work normally. To turn the generator on, you just press down on stop until it lights up red, and then you hold down on start. And now it's on. The generator power is powered off of your fuel tank. So if you're driving and you have the generator on, you're gonna notice that it's using some gas. It's not a lot, but it does take from your gas tank. Give it a few seconds once you have the generator powered on, and you'll hear the microwave click on. So it's lighting up, so that means it's powered. You can turn on your AC. And the AC comes from these vents up top. Now, you can use AC in the driver's cab just like in a normal vehicle. And that will cool you to about the dinette area. But if someone's napping in the back, or they're sitting in the back and they're getting a little hot, you would have to turn the generator on to use the AC here. And again, the generator powers your microwave, your AC, your TV, and the 110 outlets when you're not plugged in. You have two options to heat your water. You have the option to use propane or the option to use plug-in. Obviously, if you're not plugged in, your only option is to use propane. So if you're plugged in, you can turn this on Give it about 20 minutes. Take a hot shower. When you're done with your shower, come back and turn this off. If you want to use propane to heat your water, turn this on, give it 15 minutes, take a hot shower, come back and turn this off. It's really important when you're done using the hot water to turn it off, because it's going to keep trying to heat water that you're not using, which will eventually burn out the water heater element. A lot of people get this confused with the water heater. The tank heaters you will never use. It's only for really frigid temperatures, and you do not want to turn these on. So water heater is the only one you're going to be using. And again, the water pump you only want to turn on if you're using storage water. So if you're not hooked up to your city water on the outside and you want to use storage water, you have to have the water pump on. If you're hooked up to the city water, the water pump has to be off. Just another overview on how to check your levels. LPG is propane, press and hold. It's full. When you're at 1/3 and you still have a few days left and you want to use the stove, or if you're not plugged in to a 30 amp, your fridge will run off of propane. You have the ability to set it on auto. So if it's set on auto, it'll automatically switch between propane and plug-in. So it'll sense as soon as you're plugged in, it'll just automatically switch. If you have it set to just gas, it'll always be feeding off your propane tank. So I always suggest just to leave it on auto. So when you're driving and you're not plugged in, your fridge and freezer will stay nice and cold. And then you can adjust that temperature here. Going back to the control panel, battery, you press and hold that. If that gets low, you just need to crank the engine, give it 15 minutes, and it'll charge back up. Fresh is your storage water. Again, that's really easy, you just fill it on the outside. Black is your toilet waste. When that's at 2/3, you have to dump. Gray is your sink and shower waste. When that's at 2/3, it's time to dump. So for your stove, in order to work this, you would put it on light, and then you would spark it. And then you can adjust it high or low and turn it off. Same thing for each one of the burners. Spark it, high or low, turn it off. For your stove, you would put it on pilot. You'll need a long lighter to reach and light the pilot located on that silver tab in the back. Once that's lit, you can adjust it to whatever oven temperature you want. This dinette is not a sleeper, and we also have a caution tag right here. It's a granite tabletop, so it does not lower at all. If you do lower it, the legs will break because of the weight of the granite tabletop. So it always has to remain as just a table. It does not turn into a sleeper. This RV sleeps 4, so 2 on the bunk bed and 2 on the bed in the back. When we clean the RVs, we always push this part of the bunk bed back, because when you're driving and someone in the passenger seat stands up, you don't want them to bump their head. But when you're ready to sleep someone, you would just pull that part down like a puzzle piece. This is just a safety feature, so whoever's sleeping up there doesn't fall off. You can buckle that in here and buckle the other side in up there. Your bunk bed ladder right here hooks onto these and will sit here. You definitely don't want to use the armrest to prop yourself onto the bunk bed. You don't want to use this because it will break. To prop yourself into the bunk bed, you always just want to attach the ladder and use that. You also have privacy curtains for the bunk bed right here. You just take off these and then you do it to the other side and it gives you full privacy.